Hi! Over the weekend, I posted a short video where I strung this racket improperly, and I want to thank those who checked out my video and collectively guessed 6 out of the 8 errors. Now before I reveal the 8 errors, I decided to add a couple more, and maybe as I'm showing you the first 8, you'll see the other 2. Alright, so here are the 8 errors. We'll start with number 1 and 2. They're both knots that I tied at the top of the frame here, and you'll see on this one it's trimmed too long. I mean, it's past the edge of the frame, and on this one up here I cut it almost flush to the knot, so that's definitely too short. So the guideline by US RSA is between 1/8 of an inch to 1/4. I personally like to keep mine under 3/16 of an inch. Number 3 is on this hole here. I selected the wrong tie-off hole, and especially with these port type rackets, you don't want to be tying off on a port hole right there. Alright, so for number 4, you can see how crooked the strings are. Well, maybe with this background it's hard to see, but basically you can see how this the strings are bowed downwards like a smiley face. Numbers 5, 6, and 7, there's 3 misweaves in this racket. And the one that you guys got in the guesses was this one at the top here. There was one right in the middle. I went right over 3 strings right here. Now here's the one that everybody missed, and it's hard to see, and maybe the pictures that I provided was hard to catch this one, but on the second to the last cross, I actually went over these 2 strings. So that's the one that nobody got. Number 8 is this knot at the bottom here. You can see how loosely it is tied. You can see a space in the knot right there. So that was number 8. And then numbers 9 and 10. So I don't know if you figured it out by now, but maybe you can see it. Well, I made 2 crossovers at the head. So you can see on this side how those strings are crossing over there, right there. And then on this side, that one's crossing over the other strings there. So now that you know the errors, I'm going to string this racket properly and show you some ways to avoid these type of errors. Alright, so I'm about to tie off here at the top on both of these mains. But before I do that, I did want to talk about those crossovers that you saw on the frame. So that's typically going to happen on the shoulders of the racket, wherever there's a tie-off of a main, and then the crosses are gonna go past it. So what you want to do, and this racket doesn't have it, there's some rackets that have a string channel tab, that's what I'm gonna call it, but basically it makes the string stay, it separates the string away from the hole, so that once you install the mains, it kind of creates a space where the cross strings can pass over easily. But what you don't want to do is cross over that, meaning that if there's a tab here, you don't want the string to go over the tab. You want to make sure that it stays either below it or above it. And it's one of my pet peeves whenever I string a racket that I haven't done previously. If the stringer prior to me did that, it's very hard to correct sometimes. And then you have this string on the top that's not parallel. So, and if you strung rackets with that, you know what I mean. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and insert this string. And again, this racket doesn't have that. But I'm going to tie off using a Parnell knot on this first one. And I did another video where I demonstrate how to do that. But basically, I'm going to tie it off here. The main thing about cinching up a knot is you want to make sure that you're holding on to the knot tail and then release the string clamp. Because if there's any movement of the string on the knot tail, you want to make sure that you're holding it so it stays nice and tight. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this first knot, and again I'm going to get mine about between 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch. And then on the second tie off here, I'm going to go ahead and I'll use a pro knot on this one. So this one's less bulky than the Parnell knot. But both of these knots are self-tightening, so that works really well. So I'm going to go ahead and hold this here and then release the string clamp here. And it's always best to release the base before the top, because if there's any movement of the clamp, if you release the top first, it might scuff the string. So you want to make sure you do the base before the top. So again, I'll go ahead and trim this knot tail right here. I'm here on the third cross from the top, and what I'm doing is I'm working my way backwards. And I did another video, install crosses faster and reduce friction, so you can check that out. But what you want to do is make sure that this next string that I'm going to install is obviously the opposite. But a lot of times what I find beginner stringers making a mistake of is looking at this first string. And so this one right now is under. So then what will happen, sometimes I'll notice that the stringer will make this one over, thinking that it has to be opposite. But then in the end, what's going to happen is this string is actually the same, it's woven the same exact way as the other string. So you can see it right here. And that was one of the mistakes I did on the other racket. So you just want to make sure that you're looking at a common string. So I'm not going to look at this one, but look at this one right here, which is over. So as I put the string in, just make sure you go under that one there. I just completed weaving the second cross string, and I wanted to show you this on the outside of the frame. So, and this is where a crossover will typically happen. And again, this racket doesn't have those string channel tabs, but what I want to pay attention to is when I look at these two holes, this is the hole that this string will come out of, and this other hole is where the string will go into. So if there is more room on the top of this main string that's here, I would angle the tip of this above it. Same with this hole. So if I'm looking at this right here, this one appears that it doesn't really have more space on the top or bottom. But if you look at this hole right here, and I hope you can see that, there is a little bit more space. So what I'm going to do on this string is I'm going to angle it upwards so that it goes above that main string. You can see how it's coming up. And then when I insert the other end of this string, it'll go right above that main string right there. And when I tension it, eventually it'll lie nice and flat like that. So that's what you want to do to avoid the crossovers. Look at the spacing above the main strings that are already installed, and install the cross string either where there's more space above or below that string. Now I'm ready to tie off the cross string, and remember on the previous racket I tied off on that O-port hole, which is not recommended. In fact, if you take the USRSA test, it specifically states that you want to make sure that you use holes specified by the manufacturer. So in this case, on this racket, I'm going to tie off on this hole that says start knot. Now most rackets, it doesn't matter if you go on the left or right side of the head, but because this has the O-port holes, it has to be specifically on the left side of the frame. There are some other frames that have the holes on the side where it's specifically slotted, where again you have to start on a specific side. So you want to make sure you pay attention to that whenever you start your crosses. All right, so now I'm halfway through installing the crosses, and I wanted to show you where I did that misweave, and it was over 3 strings right in the middle of the string bed. To avoid most misweaves, what I would recommend is once you get past, in this case, the third cross all the way until I get here to the third to the last, it's always going to pass over this common string, which is the 8th main on the outside of the frame. And what you want to do on each weave, just make it a habit to always check, well obviously you're going to go opposite here, but when you finish your weave, just make sure that it's always opposite. So if I started under here, then this one should be over there, and that'll in most cases prevent misweaves. But in that particular misweave that I did, I actually went over 3 strings. So I'm going to go over 3 strings here and then weave. So in that case, it looks correct because this is over here and I started under there. But most people are not going to make a 3-string misweave. It'll usually happen over or under 2 strings. So let's go ahead and I'll go over 2 strings and then weave it So now you can see that this one ended under and this one started under. So you know that there's something wrong there. So you know that you made a misweave here. So that'll help eliminate a 2-string misweave, but not a 3-string misweave. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this racket, and I'm not going to make any misweaves. Remember the racket, how crooked the cross strings were? Well, one of the things you want to do throughout the installation of the crosses is to make sure that you're holding the cross string in a straight line as tension is being applied. So that'll help keep your tensioning more accurate. And I did another video, optimum tensioning of cross strings, and you can check it out there. Not only will you get more accurate tensioning, you'll also get straighter crosses when you're done stringing the racket. All right, so finally I'm here at the area where I made the misweave, and I actually went over or under 2 strings right here in this corner. And this is typically where I would see some errors in misweaves. So what I did is I started going under, but I went under 2 strings. Then I proceeded to weave the string normal, and everything's looking fine right here. But this last string is going under. So if I had checked using the method I mentioned earlier, if this one's under, this one should be over, I would have caught that, and I would have avoided this particular misweave right here. In this video, I share with you some common errors when stringing a racket. But if you want to learn more about how to string a racket properly, here's a suggestion. Have you heard of IART? The International Alliance of Racket Technicians is an independent global organization that seeks to support those interested and passionate about the art of racket service. As a premium member, you'll join our community of racket technicians where we share ideas and provide instruction. Did you know that the IART launched a free stringing course for its premium members? In this course, we'll help you achieve your goal of becoming a true racket stringer by teaching you the proper fundamental skills and starting you off in the right direction. We hope you check us out, and if you decide to take the course, we hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoyed putting it together. But let's say you've been stringing properly for a while, and you want to work in a tennis shop or start your own business. Check out the USRSA certification program and find out which certification will best suit your needs. Thanks for watching, happy stringing, and let your strings play.